Sarah, sort of help me set some of this story up for our viewers and listeners, if you would, okay?
Sure. Yeah. So our organization, Ex-Muslims of North America, we wanted to be a part of this big conference that takes place every year from the Islamic Society of North America, which is a really big organization that represents Muslims. And they have this big conference that's attended, I think, estimated by 50,000 people or something. But in any case, it's a very huge conference, and we decided that we wanted to be outside and we wanted to engage with some of the Muslim attendees there. We wanted to talk to them about ex-Muslim rights, the discrimination we face, and the fact that we are part of their communities, and we would like their help to make things better for ourselves and for them, and for the larger Muslim community. As we were passing out some of these flyers and talking to people. Some of the volunteers, I wasn't actually there myself, but Lena and Hazar were, decided to take a break at a coffee shop close by, and that's where their story begins. I think they can tell it better than me.
Hazar, I love your shirt. It says "Love is greatest." Was that one of the shirts that you guys had down in Houston, Texas?
Yeah, so this was the shirt I was actually wearing. I was wearing a similar shirt that said this. Hazar was wearing a shirt that says, "I'm an ex-Muslim, ask me why." And I got kicked out first. Hazar was not with me at the time.
Kicked out for what? I mean, you went into Starbucks, you're taking a break, you're going to go relax, you're wearing your ex-Muslim shirts, and what?
So I ordered some coffee and I sat down. I wasn't trying to interview anybody at the time. I wasn't speaking to anybody. I was simply sitting down with another volunteer and I was scrolling through my phone when one of the staff members of the Hilton walked up to me and told me that I need to leave, that we all need to leave. So I asked her why, and she said they're not allowing protesters in, and I assured her that I'm not part of the protest. I'm simply a paying customer that's sitting down and drinking coffee. So am I still supposed to leave even though I'm not participating in anything going on outside? And she said, yes, are you a guest with us? And I said no. And then she asked me if I'm part of the event that's happening across the street. And I said, no, I'm not part of the event. And she said, okay, well, for this weekend, we've reserved this place for members of the event as well as guests. So since you're neither, we're going to ask you guys to leave. When the staff approached Lena, I wasn't taking a bathroom break. So when I came back, I was looking for Lena and our other volunteer, and I didn't see them, but whoever must have spoken to Lena immediately recognized my shirt and told me, your friends have been asked to leave, and she pointed me in their direction. She said something about me not being allowed to stay either.
Sir, is it just because we're wearing these shirts?
Sorry, you're not allowed on property.
Why are we not allowed?
Because you're not allowed. You have shirts right now. There's a protest going on.
Yeah.
You can, if you take your shirts off, whatever you can.
Why does my shirt offend you or?
This is private property. You're being told you're on our property beyond this line here. You can just go ahead and leave.
So it's your official statement representing the Hilton that if my shirt offends you,
I'm making my statement right now. You are not allowed on the property right now because you're
because
part
I'm
of the protest area.
Okay, but if I take my shirt,
people here are part of the
part of the convention, part of the protest.
If you don't have your shirts that would start any type of issue, then we would have no problem.
So can we go, if you take off your shirt...
Why does my shirt start an issue? It just says I'm an ex-Muslim.
Okay. If you take off your shirt, can we go inside? This is outside. This is public property.
No, this is not. You are not on public property.
Now we can record.
You're still on our property.
Are we still on your property?
I'm sorry? You're still on.
What about now?
When are we off?
What are we now? What are we now? Look, make sure you the black line.
Behind
You're
the
fine.
black line.
Okay.
As long as you're on the other side of the line.
So we can be on this.
You can be on that other side of the line.
He's not wearing his shirt. Can he go in?
No.
I can't go in.
Because you're part of the protest, we're not allowed.
We're not part of
Please stop recording.
No, we can't. We can't.
I'm asking you to please stop recording.
No, we are. We are going to record. We are not part of it. We are outside of the private area. We can record.
I'm sorry?
We can't record because we're not on private property.
And we're not.
Look, this is your line, right? We can continue recording.
You can do what you want to do.
I know.
But you come on my property, you will be arrested for trespassing because you've been warned not to trespass on our property at this point.
So,
Because
Good.
we're not part of the protest.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
At this point, you've been told we don't want you on our property.
All right.
okay,
We just
so you don't want
wanted
us
to make sure we have that on
your
record.
property Because we represent ex-Muslims.
Kevin.
Can you read it? Is
Hold
that
on.
your statement? Sir, is it your statement that we can't be on your property because my shirt says I'm an ex-Muslim?
I have no statement for you.
Okay, so your statement is that I will be arrested. You will arrest me if I cross this line while wearing this shirt. Is that correct, sir? Sir.
I've advised you all I'm going to tell you right at this point.
Okay, so if I cross this line, you will arrest
I
me
will have HTD arrest you for
because
trespassing.
I have a
Because
shirt that
I've
says
already
I'm an
warned you not to
ex-Muslim.
come on our property.
This is the Hilton across the street from the convention. They have no actual association with ISNA besides the fact that a lot of ISNA visitors or people that are coming to the convention are staying there. I'm not sure what happened that it has been decided that anyone wearing a shirt that says I'm an ex-Muslim is not allowed on the property.
What to me it seems like is discrimination, and I'm sure what happened was that they responded to the offense of a guest, but it isn't the case that in any other scenario this would make sense, or this would be obviously the wrong thing to do in any other scenario. If it was the case, for example, that there was a woman in a hijab walking around, or somebody that said, I am a Muslim, ask me why, or instead of love is greatest, just said, God is greatest. If someone was wearing those shirts and walking around, if another guest said, I'm offended by this, or said I didn't like it, there's no way that the staff would acquiesce to that kind of personal preference. And in this case, what is bigotry? I think it's outrageous that in this case, they decided to make this call. When all the shirts actually indicated was that they don't believe. They don't believe in God. They don't believe specifically in Islam. But there's no other statement written on there. It's just one of faith, in this case, lack of faith. So I think for them to make that call based on the shirts alone is an indicator that this might be a case of discrimination.
After we released the video online and it became public, there was a bit of an incident just with the Muslim community and with my family. So, the conference did take place in Texas. So a lot of my family friends, we grew up in Austin, Texas. So a lot of my family friends were attending the conference, and someone saw the video and recognized me. And even though my name wasn't released, they went ahead and tagged my family directly in it. And knowing how sensitive of an issue this must be within our family, so my only assumption was to kind of shame my family for allowing me to be an ex-Muslim and be out there and speak up. And that kind of started drama with their family. My mom's first reaction was to tell us to go to hell and burn in there. After that, she kind of calmed down, and her second concern was our physical safety. She was like, aren't you guys afraid that someone might come up to you and stab you and paralyze you? So even she is aware that within the Muslim community, even here in the West, the most progressive Muslim communities in the world, there is still that danger. And now she has decided that she feels too ashamed to be in public within the community. She had been out of the country for several years and was looking forward to making a trip to Texas to visit her friends. And now that she's been kind of called out in such a public manner about our apostasy, she's having a hard time dealing with it, and she feels shame. even though nothing was said directly beside, passive aggressive being tagged into the video. So
I mean, do you and Lena, do you find that sense of family in each other? Do you find that you're sort of, what you miss at home, you're actually sort of connecting the family that you choose? Is that happening?
I consider myself and Hazar to be one of the extremely lucky ones. We are sisters that have each other, that are going through this journey together and supporting each other. There are several ex-Muslims that have to go through this alone. They've never met any other ex-Muslim in their life. They feel different and they are unable to speak to anybody about their experience. So yeah, I find a lot of support having somebody that shares this and understands my background and understands what I'm going through.
We're definitely one of the privileged few, and that's why we feel it's so important to be out there and to represent, because the majority of us can't afford to take the chances we're taking.
I'll let any or all of you tackle this one. Is Islam this thin-skinned?
Well, I mean, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that Islam isn't used to this. The Muslim world is not used to being challenged in this direct way, and they're absolutely not used to seeing so many people who are actively claiming that they used to believe, but they don't believe anymore, and who are loud and proud about it. This is the first time that this is happening in the Muslim world in the way that it is happening now, which is not just one individual, but many people. And for the first time, enough of us are able to be in the West and able to speak about it, and are not so much in danger that we'll be killed immediately. And I think that's changed things for the Muslim world. And I think we're going to see a lot of changes in the next 10 years because they're reacting to a phenomena they have never experienced before. Atheism has existed for some time in the West, and Christianity has engaged with atheists for some time. So they're at the very least aware that this happens in their communities. But for such a long time, atheism was seen as a Western phenomena and something Muslims thought that they didn't have to worry about because their faith was a true faith, and so obviously correct that no one would ever want to leave. But for the first time, they're facing people who have left and who are speaking out about it. And I think this causes a lot of distress to the average Muslim.
I'd like to also point out that, to be fair, I was saying earlier, I started out the day being extremely nervous. But as I had conversations with people, sure, there were a few negative reactions, and there were people that were offended by our presence or offended by us wanting to speak about Islam and would ask us, why don't you just stay in hiding? But there were also several great responses. We made beautiful connections with so many Muslims that were very tolerant and very accepting, and it didn't matter to them whether we left Islam or not. And they repeated that, Islam is a religion of peace and it's not supposed to be forced onto one another. And I think a big part of the reason we were there is to see whether people, you can preach tolerance, but when you're actually put into the position of practicing tolerance, whether you would be tolerant. And it was really incredible to see that there is a large portion of the people that were there that were very, very accepting and open to have conversations and open to disagreeing. We didn't agree on a lot of philosophical issues, but we were still able to have a healthy conversation and build a connection.
The most surprising part was that pushback did not come from ISNA itself so much as from Westerners. So there's also this issue of this super sensitivity to not offend Islam in the West right now. I think that played a part.
Let's put a punctuation mark on it. I mean, anybody can. Hazar, Lena, Sarah, what do we do? What's the next step? What would help you? What would help these conversations? What would help prevent future discrimination? What's the next step, and where can I send our viewers and listeners to perhaps participate in the solution? Anybody want to speak to that?
think Sarah would be the best.
Sure.
I think what we're already doing, we have to continue in this path, is already starting a dialogue.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think what we did at ISNA this time was, I was when we brought up in our meetings that we should go to ISNA and we should be passing out flyers. At first, I wasn't too sure. I thought, maybe now is not the right time. That maybe the temperature is just too high, and I don't really know what we'll find there, and maybe it'll be a security risk for our volunteers. But then when we actually ended up going, as Lena said, there were a lot of positive responses and a lot of people who are willing to hear us out. And the hope is that some of those people will go back and discuss this at their dinner table, or when the topic of ex-Muslims or atheists or anything like that comes up again in their families or in their communities, they might say, hey guys, I heard that such and such, discrimination happens to Muslims and this isn't right, or to ex-Muslims and this isn't right, and we should put an end to this. As in the case of any human rights, and civil liberties cause, we need allies, and we need allies within the Muslim community. And I was surprised to hear from the volunteers that the majority of the people that they spoke to were pretty positive, pretty welcoming, pretty open to the idea of further discussion. So we're going to be engaging with the Muslim community more directly, more frequently, and it's time to be more open. It's time to be out about who we are without any shame, any hesitation, and I think that that's going to change the conversation pretty dramatically. As to how to change the way the West takes a look at Islam and the way that it approaches Muslims as kind of this monolithic race almost. I don't have a lot of answers. We can try to educate, and I've been doing that for years. And Seth, we've had these conversations a couple of times about how misinformed the West is about Islam, but particularly the approach that the left takes and how unhelpful it is. I don't know to what extent that can be changed very quickly, but I actually am seeing more hope within Muslim communities than I am seeing within the left.
ExMNA.org, Ex-Muslims of North America, is providing support and communication and resources and sort of a lifeline, and I know it's desperately needed.
It's ExMuslims.org. So we are ExMuslims.org, and the same handle will get you to our Twitter and our Facebook page. It's just ExMuslims.org on Twitter, ExMuslims.org on Facebook, and those are all great ways to reach us.
I went to I was like EXMNA. Sarah just sits there and watches and just waits. She's like, actually, no. ExMuslims.org, and on Facebook, Twitter, social media, connect with this organization, support this organization. They are doing amazing things. All my best to all of you, and hopefully better news next time, okay?
Okay. Thank you, Seth.